Support for Radio Friends comes from Le Brunnery Financial, where they work to ensure a lifetime of financial security for people from all walks of life, from investment services to retirement plans. If you're looking for a trustworthy company that has the experience and knowledge to put your interests first, contact Le Brunnery Financial, a community-based investment counseling firm since 1966. Learn more at lebrunnery.com or by calling 573-449-5313. Good morning and welcome to Radio Friends. On Monday, July the 29th, we have John Howe with us, who is a professor at the University of Missouri and also book author, Foolish Corner. It's good to have you again, John.
Good to be here, Paul. Thank you.
You've been on Radio Friends, I guess, about 3 times or so?
Probably 4 or 5. Or maybe
is that many?
6?
Yeah, time
absolutely.
goes by.
Yeah.
You get
We're
older.
having fun, too.
Exactly,
Yeah,
right. But you're a financial man, and we talk about spending money. We were talking about spending money emotionally, but you wanted to talk about framing?
Framing. So, my book is about behavioral finance, and behavioral finance is essentially the intersection between kind of rational views of financial decisions and the psychology of being a human, which sometimes conflict with one another.
Yeah.
And so the phenomenon I'd like to at least start with is called framing. And framing basically is the case where we can present the same information in 2 different ways, and you might feel quite differently about those 2 different ways, even though it's the same information. Let me give you a quick example.
Okay.
So let's suppose in 2018, Paul, you had an investment, and the first way I'm going to describe it is during the year it rose by $5,000, but due to a downturn at the end of the year, it lost $2,000 of value. So that's the first way I'm going to describe it.
Okay.
Second way I'm going to describe it is to say you had this investment last year. It went up by $5,000, and in spite of a market downturn, you ended up $3,000 ahead, right?
Yeah.
It's the same information, right?
Yeah.
But most people will feel much better about the second one, because the second one focuses on the $3,000 gain, and the first one focuses on the $2,000 loss.
I understand.
In either scenario, we got $3,000 at the end of the year, right?
Either way, you came out ahead.
Right. But I'm still going to feel better if my financial advisor describes it to me the second way, like, oh, in spite of a downturn, you wound up with $3,000. I'm going to feel a lot better about that than if you say, you lost $2,000 at the end because of the market downturn.
Yeah.
It's the same information,
exactly
but the way we frame it.
The way you say something makes all the difference in the world.
And I can tell you this is a life lesson. I mean, advertisers know this, whether they use the word framing or not. Advertisers know this. They know how to present things in a way that make people feel good as well. Okay. So there's kind of a broader life lesson than just your investments.
Yeah. What's another topic? Yeah.
Well, another one I'd like to talk about that we can relate back to framing is called the house money effect. So this comes from gambling. And so if you can picture going out to Boonville, and maybe early on you start winning. So let's just hypothetically say you start with $100 and you start winning, so you've got $175 sitting there on the table.
Okay, you started with $100.
Started with $100.
So you won $75.
Right. And what most people do is they don't really think of the 75 as kind of theirs, even though it is theirs. It's sitting in that pile of chips or whatever. They kind of think of it as the house money, and this is a well-documented phenomenon. And what they do is they take greater risks with that money than they would take with their initial stake. And so
they could end up gambling that all back, losing it, and losing some of their money that they brought in also.
This is exactly, of course, what the casino wants you to do,
right?
Right? And so the notion, though, the framing part of this is the way people kind of instinctually do this is they frame my initial stake and the winnings as being kind of in completely different piles, different kinds of money, even though the whole $175 belongs to you. And so, but you treat that second pile of money, the winnings, as, again, the house money. That's where the name comes from. And you treat it differently. And so you've got this interesting framing problem. One way you could reframe it as saying, "Now I've got $175 and it's all mine."
Yeah.
But what most people
and you
do,
could stop gambling right then,
you
and
could
you
stop
came
there.
away $75 ahead.
and maybe go to the bar and have a drink or whatever one does in Boonville when one is done gambling. But anyway, so that's really kind of a framing thing. And the notion, if you're aware of framing, then you can also begin. Once you become aware of it, you can begin to think about how to reframe it. The example I just gave is I can think, now this is $175 of my money. It's not $100 of my money and $75 that the house kind of owns still.
Can we, that makes sense, but can we talk briefly, we got a couple of minutes left, about emotional spending?
Oh boy, that is a huge one, because we do spend emotionally. Very often we spend to maybe satisfy some urge that we have or some dissatisfaction that we feel, perhaps even unconsciously. We're trying to satisfy, get over some bad feeling by buying something. We're trying to soothe ourselves, perhaps, by buying certain kinds of products. And so there is a lot of emotional shopping, buying of all sorts going on.
But that's not necessarily bad, is it?
No, the only time it's really bad is when it just gets out of control.
Right.
When you think, I really need a Lamborghini, and life will be great once I have a Lamborghini, but you don't have a budget for a Lamborghini.
Right.
Then you got a problem there, right?
You got to look at what you have. Be realistic about what you have and how much you can afford to spend. And then if you want to splurge just a little bit, emotional, that's okay.
Well, I think so let me just give you a personal example. It's on the investment side. I have most of my I have all of my retirement funds in well-diversified portfolios with low expense ratios, but I do have a small fund that I call my fun account. And this is kind of the emotional, the fun of speculating, taking some risks. And the defining characteristic of that account for me is that its value could go to zero and my life really wouldn't be affected very much, right? But that's kind of an emotional thing. I mean, because
so you're having fun with it.
I'm having fun with it.
You're having fun, and if you take a risk and you lose, it's okay. It's not going to devastate you. But if you make money with it, hallelujah.
Right. But and so going back to your case, if you're in a shop and there's a $5 or $10 item and that's in your budget and it makes you feel good for some emotional reason, it connects susomehow, then why not? It's not necessarily a bad thing, as you said.
Right. And you got to be realistic about what you're going to spend and how much you realistically have that you can part with.
Exactly. And so you had mentioned, I think, on a previous show that you do a monthly budget.
Right.
And I think most people don't, and I think most people should. And then they have a sense of where their money's going.
I couldn't survive without a monthly budget.
And but most people just kind of go along spending whatever's in the
monthly
account.
budget, so you know what you've got, you put what you've got coming in and what's going out, and you're a whole lot better off. And you're set for the month.
Absolutely.
John, I appreciate you coming by. If people want your book, The Foolish Corner, where is it available?
It's available on Amazon. It's available as a hard copy, and it's also available in Kindle.
Okay. So I enjoy chatting with you. You make a lot of sense.
Okay.
Putting
so
it
much.
all in layman's terms for us.
My pleasure.
All right. We're out of time for today. Tomorrow, First Chance for Children and Fayette Festival of the Arts. If something you would like to hear or see, drop me an email. That's pepperp@missouri.edu. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.